So the 1950s is a time of incredible economic growth, and really the reason for this is going to have to do a lot with the federal government and its spending policies. And we can see this in the first 3 points here. Now, the first is that during World War II and the Korean War, there's huge amounts of government spending on both of those wars. All that money is going to be fed into the economy, and we talked about that with the end of the Great Depression. The war itself isn't what led to the end of the Great Depression. Instead, is that massive deficit spending that's going to pull the economy out of the depression. The second is that the government is going to spend a huge amount of money on infrastructure improvements, most notably the Eisenhower's Highway Defense Act. But also they're going to build roads, and they're going to build bridges, and they're going to build other things that are going to, again, give people jobs, keep them working, and pump money into the economy. The federal government's also going to have a high spending on military. Now, yes, we have military spending with World War II and Korea, but after the Korean War ends, the government is still going to massively invest into the military for several different reasons, but the biggest one is the Cold War. The Cold War is going to lead to an arms race, particularly after the Berlin airlift, with Joseph Stalin, who's going to invest a lot of money in the conventional weapons. Now, Eisenhower is going to suggest using nuclear deterrence, and he's going to build up nuclear weapons. So there's going to be a nuclear arms race that's going to develop throughout the 50s and 60s as well. So, but all that costs massive amounts of money. So we have federal spending on the wars, on infrastructure, and on the military arms race. We're also going to see that there's a massive amount of productivity in American industry. And some of this is going to come from the military, which is being sponsored by the federal government as well. So military research on things like consumer products, are going to lead to things like consumer products. So the military is what developed plastic, right? They're going to figure out plastics. The military is going to invest in research electronics and aviation. So when you have a jet fighter, those same principles of a jet fighter are going to be applied to commercial airliners. Same thing with plastics. They develop plastics so it would be lighter to carry equipment around. That's going to find its way into commercial products as well. So military research is going to help increase productivity. That's in addition to all the other innovations that go on in the private sector. One of the biggest ones is computers. Computers were initially created through military projects and are going to find its way into personal computers. There is a lack of foreign competition. Remember, after World War II, Europe is devastated. We're still dealing with the effects of colonialism. Japan had been devastated by atomic weaponry and firebombing. So there is a lack of competition, at least in the initial part of the 1950s. Later, that's going to change, and especially West Germany and Japan, which were former enemies, which the United States helped build up through the Marshall Plan money. Those are going to become not only competitors, but also important trade partners. All of this leads to also a consumer culture. You need to have people that are going to be willing to buy all that stuff. The savings rate was cut in about half during this time period. We have the introduction of credit cards, so there's going to be an increase in debt among Americans. The rate of electricity is going to be about 3 times what it was, the use of electricity. All that GI Bill money and all the people wanting to move into the suburbs is going to cause a housing boom. And then you build a house. So that means the people that are working on building the houses get money as well. So there's this consumer culture that emerges, and we have the increase in not only radios, but now televisions and car purchases. And what we see is that those formerly blue collar workers that were just scraping to get by are now benefiting from all of this. And the blue collar is now what we're going to call a growing middle class.